At 6, I'm Chris Hensing. Meg is away this week. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, is he a vigilante or a distributor of child pornography? A Windsor man's tactics to expose so-called creepers slammed by a court justice. And there's more data stolen from hospitals in southwestern Ontario than officials thought earlier this week. We hear from experts about what people need to do to protect themselves. And last night's presidential Republican debate features a call for a northern border wall. A look at what people think of a physical barrier between Canada and the United States. For years, a Windsor man posted video of his confrontations with men that he met online. Jason Nasser says that he was exposing child predators and that his YouTube channel, Creeper Hunter TV, aimed to educate and entertain. But now he's been convicted of criminal charges. The CBC's Dawson Chen has more.
The London judge who sentenced Jason Nasser described his YouTube channel as vigilantism run amok. For 5 years, Nasser posted videos as the Creeper Hunter. He claimed to be exposing men who had messaged him for sex while he pretended to be underage. The 100 episodes of Creeper Hunter TV featured in-person confrontations, full names, and phone numbers. Nasser's tactics in one episode led to criminal charges against him. Earlier this year, he was found guilty of harassment by telecommunications, extortion, and other offenses. Now a Windsor documentary maker is turning his lens on Nasser and the aftermath of Creeper Hunter TV.
Nasser got it right once in a while, but he also was careless, I think. There were innocent men who were swept up in his Creeper Hunter TV. That destroys me. I mean, there would be nothing worse than somebody pointing a finger at you, calling you a predator or pedophile. And these men had no recourse. Once Nasser pointed his finger and said, "You're a predator, you're a pedophile," and posted that video, their lives were essentially changed forever.
Gallagher has interviewed family members of people who were shown on Creeper Hunter TV. Gallagher says some of those men took their own lives. Nasser will serve 18 months of house arrest, then 6 months under curfew. The judge said Nasser lacks remorse. But Nasser told CBC News he disagrees.
I don't think I'm remorseless. I think I don't have to be public about how I feel about these cases and my own actions. I'm not going to talk about what it is that I feel about these people. I feel sorry for them because of the decisions that they made. Because if they were to have made better choices, then they wouldn't have been in that position to be filmed or to meet up with a child that they thought was going to be for a sexual purpose.
Nasser plans on appealing the conviction. Gallagher's documentary is still in production with the support of TVO. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
New details tonight about the cyber attack on hospitals in southwestern Ontario. Officials now say that more data has been published than originally thought, including highly sensitive personal information that experts say can be used for fraud. Today, Hotel de Grace Healthcare is saying that their preliminary conclusion was wrong. More than 1,300 employees have had their social insurance number, their name, and pay amounts stolen. They're warning anyone hired after November 4th of last year to be on alert. They say some former employees have also had their information stolen. The hospital offering credit monitoring to protect people from potential identity theft. All hospitals in Windsor, Essex, Chatham-Kent, and Sarnia telling people that care will be impacted because doctors may not have access to medical records. They're telling people that systems will be slower and it will require extra time.
We are doing our best also to restore our computer and digital systems as fast as possible. We will do our best to rebook and reschedule all canceled cases as soon as our systems are up and running at full capacity again.
That's Blue Water Health's Chief of Staff in Sarnia. They've had the largest data breach. Anyone who visited the hospital or one of its predecessors for care since 1992 has had their information stolen. That's more than 250,000 people. If you went to a hospital in Sarnia for care in the last 30 years, this ransomware group may have your name, your address, your date of birth, They also may have stolen and posted online the reason for your visit, information that is highly sensitive and can contain very personal details. They say the social insurance number of 20,000 patients has also been stolen. The group expects that this information was part of that ransomware attack. They say they did not make any payments to the group that is alleged to have caused this, who said if paid, they would take that information down. None of the hospitals in southwestern Ontario paid. An expert tells me that that should be government policy.
We are in as bad a situation as we've ever been when it comes to ransomware. The numbers are way up, they have been for years, and they are showing no signs of going down. The biggest concern over incidents like this is what impact they may have on patient care. They do put lives at risk if people can't get the medical treatment they need when they need it. They could die as a result of that. These attacks are financially motivated, and the only way that I could see government quickly bringing an end to them is for the payment of ransoms to be prohibited.
With the data being released, experts tell us that it can lead to fraud, it can lead to scams and identity theft attempts. The information, it's ending up on the dark web. It's a place where people can connect anonymously and usually for criminal reasons. People can buy and sell drugs or weapons using what's called the Tor network. This isn't a place that everyday internet users access. Here's how one security expert described it to me.
Very, very small percentage of the overall internet, but it's like the dark biker bar of a very large city, right? It's the worst place where the worst criminals of all kinds go globally. And so it's not very easy to go, but if people who are in the criminal world spend a lot of time there, and if they want somebody's data to try and, open credit cards or do fraud or impersonate someone, whatever they're going to do, that is where they're going to go. So although the average person might not be able to get to the dark web very easily, the people who are the real risk are probably there all the time.
So what do you do now? Here are the big tips if you think your information is part of this hack. Call any bank that you deal with and let them know immediately. Use a credit monitoring service if that's offered to you. Change your passwords to something that's complicated and complex, like 3 unassociated words broken up by numbers and special characters. The advice is also to use 2-step confirmation whenever possible, which could mean getting a text or a call to your phone whenever you try logging into one of your accounts. WestJet has a new route to a popular Canadian destination, but local travelers will need to cross the border in order to take off. And at what cost will this be? CBC's TJ Deere brings us the story.
WestJet has announced a new route between Detroit and Vancouver will run once daily starting in April. You can fly to the same Western Canada destination from Windsor, but it'll take a bit longer.
We're a border city here in Windsor. I would say 50% of our businesses is flying out of Detroit or even Lansing.
And how do the costs compare? The cheapest round-trip tickets from Windsor via Toronto Pearson Airport to Vancouver costs $859. That's between May 1st to the 8th with Air Canada. If you fly from Detroit, the same Air Canada flight costs about half of that. When WestJet begins their nonstop Vancouver-Detroit service on April 28th, a round-trip ticket will only cost $362 Canadian. WestJet says it chose to operate the new route through Detroit because of its long-standing partnership with Delta Airlines, which has a major hub in Detroit. They also said the new route will provide Western Canadians traveling from or through Vancouver with the opportunity to seamlessly connect to more than 70 transborder destinations. The head of Windsor's airport isn't surprised WestJet chose Detroit, suggesting there's no comparison between the two airports because of the size difference.
It's not really a choice to be made here. I mean, they do multiple things from multiple airports. They fly from Detroit and they fly from Windsor.
Galvin also says whether people fly out of either Windsor or Detroit depends on where they're going.
We look for the routes that people want to use. If they're flying on, say, to Toronto or connecting, that's certainly there's a lot of convenience here for that.
Currently, YQG doesn't have any year-round routes with WestJet, only a seasonal route to and from Calgary, which is set to return in June. Galvin says more planes in the air are a good thing, regardless of where they take off from, but acknowledges that it'll take time for the airport to return to pre-pandemic flight frequencies.
The regional airports, of which Windsor is one, were sort of hit the hardest, and so we would normally enjoy 10 flights a day right now, and we have 4, hoping to ramp that up on a non-seasonal.
TJ Deere, CBC News, YQG.
We've heard about the wall between Mexico and the U.S. Now there's talk about a wall with Canada and our American numbers. The idea came up during a Republican presidential debate last night in Miami. Candidate Vivek Ramaswamy brought it up unprompted, insisting that his party's border policies aren't tough enough.
The other thing that hasn't been discussed is the northern border. I'm the only candidate on the stage, as far as I'm aware, who has actually visited the northern border. There was enough fentanyl that was captured just on the northern border last year to kill 3 million Americans. So we got to just skate to where the puck is going, not just where the puck is. Don't just build the wall, build both walls. Can't just complete the wall, use the military to seal the Swiss cheese for the tunnels that they're actually building underneath that wall.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what needs to be
Ramaswamy.
practical and actually get this job done.
So can you picture a wall between Windsor and Detroit? We hit the streets to find out what people think.
I don't really think there should be borders between anyone. We're all human beings.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I mean, we come over here every month. We enjoy ourselves. It's a beautiful river walk, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
My first thoughts when you said it to me, I think that's insane. Why?
Well, I would strongly suggest that individual learn a little bit more about history and the great friendship that we've had between Canada and the United States going back, well over 200 years, that we have something to celebrate. We have the largest peaceful border in the world, and our soldiers fought alongside their soldiers in multiple world wars, and we've always had their back and they've always had our back, especially here locally. Windsor loves Detroit, Detroit loves Windsor.
Here in Windsor, the union representing striking workers at Magna Intergram Windsor Seating says that they have high expectations after the Detroit 3 deals. This is day 2 of the strike for the roughly 900 workers who are at the Lakeshore facility. They make seats for the auto industry, and many of those are used at the Windsor assembly plant. Unifor says the minivan plant could start feeling the effects of the strike as soon as next week. A Magna spokesperson tells CBC News that he's hopeful an agreement is within reach. Unifor Local 444 says negotiations remain at an impasse, but the plan was for the union and employer to be back at the table this morning. The union says employee breaks, wages, pensions, and benefits are all issues that need to be addressed in these negotiations. You may be paying more attention to your speed as you've been driving around in Windsor. That's because a number of what the city calls radar speed feedback signs are up and on the rise.
We're just starting the process right now of working with each individual councillor to come up with their plan for the 2024 season. So I can't give you an exact number because I'm not sure which ones will pick this tool versus another tool. But I think it's safe to say that a lot of the councillors are interested in this tool. So I think we might see a couple more pop up, and you'll probably also see the current ones moving around.
The city has seen 44 of them installed over the past year or so. There are 2 more set to be installed. The signals are cheaper than speed humps and can be moved quite easily. Folks also says that the signs do lose effectiveness if left in one place for too long, so moving them is encouraged. It'll be up to ward councillors to decide what traffic calming measures they will want put in their areas next year, but she does expect there to be more installed. One corner in Walkerville is celebrating a new all-way stop. CBC reported last fall about what residents called an accident-prone corner after a hit and run was caught on tape. Residents were asking for speed humps and an all-way stop to be put in, but at the time the city wouldn't do it because it was considered a bus route. The city says the decision to install humps is dependent on the outcome of a traffic calming survey in the area, but it also says that the quantity of incidents at the corner in the past 3 to 4 years does warrant the stop.
There's been a lot of horns honking still and near misses since then, usually every other week or so, but now it's a lot calmer on the street that all the cars are stopping, and it's a lot safer now.
Many immigrants looking for work face a barrier right from the start when they apply for jobs. They have no Canadian work experience. Ontario's Labour Ministry says that putting forward a legislation to ban that as a requirement will help. Lorenda Redekop has the details.
The person behind the wheel may be a highly skilled worker, trained in another country, but with no Canadian work experience in their field.
The old adage that my cab driver or Uber driver is a doctor needs to end. They need to be practicing on the front lines.
Today, the Minister of Labour announced he'll introduce legislation to prohibit employers from requiring Canadian work experience in job ads. He calls it a first step.
Do I think that today means that it's done and the job is done? No, we have an important continued collective responsibility to work with employers, but I've put the line in the sand and said we care about competency, not about where you got that competency.
Shaunika Nawanti came to Canada 2 years ago as a student, but she'd already worked in HR in Sri Lanka for 10 years, and she has an MBA.
I applied for thousands of jobs, I would say, but I didn't get even an interview, so then I ended up working at Magna.
She later learned she wasn't alone.
I was made to think that this is my fault, and there's something wrong about me, and that I need to change in order to get a job in the field that I trained in. I was wrong.
She now works in her field, thanks in part to a program for skilled immigrant women by the organization that hosted this announcement.
It's a first step towards in the right direction to start eliminating one by one these barriers, but also we need to do a lot of work and education with employers because it's not only the job posting.
Definitely the first step is also recognizing foreign credentials.
The opposition NDP isn't sure how much of a difference this change will make, saying often immigrants aren't considered for a job if their resume doesn't include Canadian experience, regardless of what a job posting says.
While you may ban a job description from posting Canadian experience, it still does not create a pathway for that doctor who's now driving a cab to be able to succeed in Ontario.
We'll find out more details next Tuesday when the minister introduces the legislation. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Take a live look outside of the Ambassador Bridge there with the lights all shining bright. A full look at your forecast coming up after the break. welcome back here. It's been a bit of a wet week, windy last night too. My gosh, we had a little bit of everything there, Nick.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of getting better though, clearing up as we head
Now
through
that
tonight.
you're here, it's getting better.
Yeah, well,
buddy.
hey, come on. I bring the good weather. Yeah, 13 degrees today, man. Sunshine in play, and kind of the story heading into the weekend as well. So a little bit of a change from what we were seeing there with the wind and kind of the mixed precipitation and all that stuff. So 13 today, not doing too bad. 10 right now, double digits in other places as well, like Sarnia and Goderich too. Again, good deal of sunshine there. Kind of the story. What's happened here is that system that's sort of pushed off to the east. In behind it, we've had some clear skies, and then we'll see a little bit of cloud cover kind of build in, but it's on and off. So this is kind of how it plays out. So high cloud cover there. The slight chance of seeing a few isolated showers through sort of the late overnight period tonight, even tomorrow morning. But we're talking about a 30% chance. If you do see it, though, it should be short-lived and very light in nature. Now, that kind of comes and goes. So we've got cloud cover that's sort of in and out for the next 24 hours or so. Friday night, things start to clear out. And with those sort of clearing skies, we also start to see the overnight temperatures dropping as well. So that is something to watch here. We're going to see temperatures going down below the zero mark, at least in some places. Anyway, Saturday looking pretty good. Now, you mentioned the winds. It is a little gusty. The wind gusts up to about 50 kilometers per hour. Those are easing off heading into tomorrow morning there. And then sort of up and down. We're looking at winds around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour over the next 24 hours or so. By the time we hit Saturday, though, it looks like things are pretty much going to sort of ease off. It doesn't show up very well here, but we're starting to see the wind shift a little bit more northerly or northwesterly, and that's where you tend to get that sort of cooler or colder air coming in. So heading into the evening hours tonight, we'll see the temperatures dropping down to about 5 degrees in the Windsor area. Similar temperatures everywhere. Basically, everybody's seeing overnight lows above the zero mark. Now, that's not the story, though, as we head into the weekend. A couple things going on. Number one, of course, we got this colder air that's going to be moving in. But number two is that the cloud cover that we're seeing in place, that tends to insulate things a little bit. It's like a blanket. But as soon as that cloud cover moves out heading into the weekend, the overnight lows start to drop. So here is a look at the forecast for the next 5 days. 11 degrees tomorrow. Not too bad. It's pretty much on seasonal. The slight chance of seeing a few spotty showers there. Remembrance Day, 6 degrees. It's a little bit cooler, but cool start to the day as well. We've got -1 for a couple the overnights there. 7 degrees on Sunday and sunshine. Back to double digits, though, for next week. You can't complain about this weather in November.
No,
not too bad.
Not at all. It's doing nice. It's doing nice. And,
Yeah.
and to have it dry on Saturday is always good to see.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for this, Nick.
There you go. You bet.
We have heard of inflation, talk about it all the time. We heard about shrinkflation. You see it on the shelves. Up next, the new version of inflation, skimpflation. Find out what it means after the break. Well, if you enjoy potato chips, you certainly know about shrinkflation when companies shrink food products, but you might not be aware of the next type. It's called skimpflation, when companies change food recipes and shoppers say they're getting less. CBC's Sophia Harris explains.
You might remember them from your youth. Quaker Dips granola bars,
dipped in delicious real milk chocolate.
But the Dips bars are no longer covered in milk chocolate. Instead, it's a chocolatey coating with palm oil, and it's not real chocolate.
It appears that they've used palm oil to get similar texture and quality of the chocolate, but it doesn't meet the standard of identity in Canada.
Why do you think the company may have made this change?
It could be a cost-saving measure. So we know that cocoa ingredients tend to be more expensive than other products like vegetable oil, especially palm oil.
When food companies swap out ingredients for cheaper alternatives but don't lower the price, it's known as skimpflation.
It's really an unknown, sneaky way to give you less for your money.
The old and current Dips packaging look very similar, but only the old box says the bars are made with real milk chocolate.
The new package actually doesn't contain real milk chocolate anymore.
Some people who buy Dips bars didn't know about the change.
I think it's just a deception technique that they're looking for, getting a cheaper product out there.
Are you going to buy this bar anymore?
Now that you've pointed this out, I probably won't.
I think because of inflation, we're seeing more examples of skimpflation.
This U.S.-based consumer advocate posts online apparent examples of skimpflation, like this wishbone salad dressing sold in U.S. stores and on Amazon in Canada.
The one on the left has more oil in it. So they took out some of the oil and they seemingly replaced it with water and salt. That saved them money.
Carbohydrates, protein.
Companies are required to list ingredients on food labels. This registered dietitian says they should also have to alert customers when they make recipe changes.
I think it comes down to clearly communicating to consumers so that they can make informed decisions.
The companies that make the bars and the salad dressing did not respond to requests for comment. Last month, the federal government said it will investigate skimpflation, but it has no action plan as of yet. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Something to think about next time you walk down the grocery store aisle. A painting by Picasso has become the most valuable piece of art in the world, and it was auctioned off this year.
Brooke, it's yours. Thank you very much. Panel number 36, thank you.
This right here, the 1932 painting fetched nearly $140 million US at a Sotheby's in New York. It's called Femme à la main, which translates to woman with a watch. And you can see it right in there. Take a peek. It's the second most expensive Picasso painting ever to sell at an auction. Picasso painted it at a pivotal point in his career, where at 50 years old, he'd achieved widespread fame. But critics were raising questions about the direction of his future as an artist. An age-old lesson there, never listen to the haters. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and you can download our CBC News app to get stories that matter the most to you wherever you are. Have a good night.